It's the Life After High School podcast.
Right on. Andre, brother, I appreciate you coming to the show. Welcome to my nice little fun garage studio. And yeah, I'm super stoked about this. I've had a lot of people tell me only good things, whether it be about your practice, about who you are as a person, and just the few conversations we've had in the past and times we've hung out. I have only good things, so I'm super stoked. I really appreciate you coming on, brother.
Hope I can live up to the hype then.
Yeah, right on. Oh, I'm sure you won't disappoint, man. So, with that being said, take us through kind of your transition leaving high school, like what that was like in college, and then kind of how that path took you to where you are now. And we can kind of go through it from there.
Yeah, no worries. So after high school, it was, I was an athlete in high school, so I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I liked the health field. I knew physio was kind of an interest. So I went to, like my other buddies, went to kinesiology, did the university route type thing. And yeah, I was fortunate enough. So when I was in university, I was going towards becoming a physiotherapist. I did a co-op placement with a Chiro in Windsor, Dr. Radovich. And before then, I thought like chiropractors, all they did was kind of rack 'em, crack 'em, and see you later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I stepped in Dr. Radovich's office, Steve's office, and it was awesome. It was different. So he blended at the time my understanding of physiotherapy and chiropractic, and I was like, oh man, that's pretty sharp. And at the time, he was doing active release technique, which is this a trademark version of myofascial release. So myofascial release is fancy word of saying like muscle release.
Yeah.
Push on muscles and we make things and we stretch things and
Nice.
move things around.
Right on.
So it's all that kind of stuff. But he incorporated both of them together, and that was the first time that I saw that. So every time when I was in the SU, every time I did physio, it would be like you have like the IFC, the little stimulator kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That and then with some rehab exercise. But it was finally the first time that I actually saw somebody put their hands on a patient or on a person to get them better. So at the time I was just having some issues. I've always had some shoulder issues from wrestling and from football. So after like a month and a half of working with him, I finally mustered up the courage. I'm like, hey Steve, do you mind treating my shoulder? It's been bummed out. So yeah, he treated my shoulder twice, and then I stepped under the bar, did a nice bench set, and then I just had no more shoulder pain. So I was like,
amazing.
So since then I was just sold. So I was like, I don't know what he did, but I just want to do what that guy does. So
amazing.
So yeah, so then after that day, I just moved everything over from physiotherapy to Chiro because that's what Steve was, and I just kind of followed that route. So after that, I put all my eggs in one basket. Applied to the one Chiro college in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I got waitlisted, so then I was shitting bricks. So I was like, oh man, what am I going to do with my life now?
Yes.
So at the time, I was thinking my next option would have been like ergonomics, which I always enjoyed.
Nice.
Yeah, even growing up with my dad in the welding shop, I never knew what we were doing, but it was just ergonomics because my dad's like always like, well, I want the table this high because it's better for working. I want this table high because it's better for like fine working. So he always had different tables like that.
That's cool. They figured that out on his own.
Yeah, just on his own. So I was like, oh man, so he just did it without even him knowing, and now we have like this fancy word that goes
Nice.
with it. So that was option 2. But then a week later, I got my acceptance letter, and then that just went down the road. So then I went to Chiro for 4 years. And then I started my practice after that. So life was great. And then moved here in Sudbury 2012. Started with a great guy, Dr. Adams. Mm-hmm. He was a little more on the traditional chiropractic side, which was great. He gave me my start. And then I was able to meet up with Yves Charette. He's an osteopath and the team shredder at the time. So yeah, and then he had a different spin on things when it came to treatment. So I never saw some of the stuff that he did, and he was explaining some stuff. I'm like, Eve, there's no way that you could palpate that kind of stuff. Like he was talking about the interosseous membrane. So it's like a membrane that's between the two shin bones. I was like, how are you going to palpate that? He's like, just watch. So he kind of goes,
just watch. He says,
yeah, with the confidence. I was like, huh. So ever since then, since then, he was more or less, I have a lot of respect for him, and he's more or less one of my mentors here in town. And so I was able to build my practice with him along, and then unfortunate events happened, and then we had to move the practices, and we still maintain friendship. We end up where we are above Glorious, and then he's over behind the Cooperative Funeral Home. So life is great.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah,
things happen.
Yeah.
So with that, we kind of met because one of my good buddies is you're a mentor of his, so to speak. So your mentor in Windsor, and hearing you talk a bit about that in the research of this, and then before and in the past, what do you think makes a good mentor, or better yet, what made him a good mentor for you?
What made Steve a good mentor for me?
Back in the day, if you can remember.
He just opened my eyes to like a slightly different version of what I was already kind of wanted to do. Like I just never, he put a different spin on rehab.
Huh.
So something that I've never seen before. Like this is, to me, like, I don't know, like this is going back in 2003? Yeah, 2003. So at the time, like at least for me, growing up in the zoo, like the rehab world was a little bit different. The physiotherapy was like, you get hooked up to some ultrasound, some stim, and then you get some exercises, and that's what I saw. Or you to get different versions of like a hot, cold kind of stuff, and then exercise. So that's what my thought process was for physio. For him, what kind of blew my mind, but that was kind of interesting, is the fact that he used his hands, like his fingers and his thumbs, and actually applied to pressure, tension, and different things like that to the musculature in order to stretch it, to do that kind of stuff. So at the time, we weren't really sure what we were doing, but we thought we were breaking down scar tissue.
Yeah.
And then when I stepped into the lab in Chiro College, we get to do like cadavers and stuff like that. So we actually get to dissect cadavers.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, super respectful and all that other stuff. Like it comes with like all its own procedures. But yeah, so we were going in there, and I was fortunate enough that our cadaver had some scar tissue, like an actual like physical scar, and then so I'm there with my knife trying to cut through the scar tissue, and I'm just like, man, this stuff is like ridiculously tough. And then I was like, okay, well then of course then you still drink the Kool-Aid, eh? When we put our hands on people, we're still breaking down scar tissue.
Yeah.
But then as I was going through practice and different things, like I listened to different podcasts, and I remember that time when I was in the lab. For us to really break down scar tissue between musculature, like it's a lot of it's almost impossible. For one, like the surface underneath the skin is pretty much frictionless, so to actually put any pressure through, it's kind of tough. So the new concept right now, what we're thinking when it comes to manual therapy, is that we're just putting an input into the system, into the brain. So we're highlighting something that's stuck here. It's not moving properly. So I want to stretch it in a certain way. I want to move it in a certain way. And I'm using stretch in a loose term, but I want to activate it in a certain way, create a tension line through that way. So the brain can realize and then rework itself that it should be able to stretch that way. So it's a remolding process. We're not really breaking down scar tissue. We're remolding tissues by putting an input, and then the blood system will come in with like the white blood cells, kind of take some stuff away, break down some of the scar tissue, and over time we'll remodel that so it's a healthier tissue.
So is that something what happens when scar tissue needs to be built up? Is that there's a lack of, like, the brain almost forgets? Is that, I'm curious, I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, so the best analogy I've come up with so far, it's like if you're like a sculptor.
Okay.
And you're trying to build, and you're trying to sculpt something. Yeah. So you just start with a hunk of clay.
Yeah.
So that's what the scar tissue is. So you have an injury, and then you have the scar tissue. So the body just laying down clay after clay after clay, and then you have this lump of clay.
Yeah.
So that's that'd be like the myoblast, that kind of stuff. So it's just the cells that come in. Now you'll have like the class system that comes in and kind of remodels it. So that's what's coming in and sculpting it, and it'll make it like the Statue of David or whatever. So it remodels it back to it at best it can to the way it is with the proper inputs. So through exercise, through soft tissue stuff, and then so those are our two main concerns. So we always want to stress in certain things. So when we give people rehab exercises, it's just that's the purpose for it, so we can continue stressing it in that manner.
Yeah.
And they're finding out now that if we can continue that tension for about 2 minutes, like in the treatment, that you could actually change and you could actually communicate things at the almost the cellular level, the way it communicates through the force. So if we overstretch, but if we put the stretch to it, or like a force through it for a certain amount of time, the cells will actually start communicating to one another, and then forcefully going and moving that cell one by one and trying to line it. But it takes about 2 minutes, and then time repeat time after that. Right. So it's just different things like that. So when like if you're like on Pat's table or on my table, and people kind of wonder like, well, why are you doing this? Like sometimes we call trigger point therapy. We're just kind of holding something there for X amount of like 30 seconds, a minute, or that's what we're just trying to do. We're just trying to input to that system long enough that we could address the cells through the communication through tension, because they communicate through tension. So like there's like a mechanical receptor, so it's like if I like my T-string, I'm pushing this way, so
right. There's a push-pull.
The push-pull type thing.
There's like a balance there that needs to happen for that.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that a lot of times they'll talk about like tensegrity and that kind of stuff, and that model. But really and truly, that's what we're just trying to do. We're just trying to add tension and stretch to the system, so we can communicate and not lengthen, but change the tissue eventually with the help of the body remodeling itself, and then going forward.
So you need to cause that, like the cells and everything, to have that push-pull reaction in order to get in or almost through.
Yeah.
And that's where the remodeling or rebuilding, with your words, kind of takes place.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Now, do you have like a niche that you focus on? Or one, sorry. One that you prefer to focus on. Like your favorite.
My favorite. I like shoulder injuries. Low back injuries are lots of fun, and neck injuries are fun. Just because that's, as a chiropractor, that's what we see a lot. A lot of times we're known for helping out people with low back pain and neck pain. But over the years, I've grown more accustomed to treating. Sounds kind of, some people might think it's gross, but feet. It's the foundation. And
very important. I can only imagine.
So if the foot's not articulating as well as it could, then we just have to find ways for it to articulate. So there's 33 joints in the foot, and if they're not all moving correctly, there's a lot. 33, there's a lot. So if they're not all moving, and some of them are blocked, then your gait's a little off, and then then that's what creates knee injuries, create hip injuries, low back stuff. So it is truly the foundation of what it is. And I didn't realize how important it was. And now, I guess I'm not too sure if it's because of COVID or if it's like this is a personal for Robert. He's my 7-year-old. When he walks, and I was wondering, I was like, why the other day him and Margaret and Mo, they're doing a foot race, and unfortunately, my oldest lost to my 2 youngest.
No.
I was devastated. I was devastated for him. But it's because the way he was running, like he was always running with a limp, because of we have to work on it. Like, mind you, he's 7 years old, so I have to pick my battles, right?
Yeah.
But his foot, he toes out a little bit, so as he walks over it, he kind of buckles his knee over it. So he's not coming over his toe. He's wobbling off the side of his foot. And there's a lot of people that actually do that when they walk into the clinic. It's just because the feet will kind of toe out a little bit, and as they walk over, people, especially with flat foot, they'll kind of go that way. So just retraining people on how to walk over their big toe, and then using the proper foot mechanics to walk over their big toe to alleviate knee pain, to alleviate hip pain, and then no back pain. But I can't start as early in Robert's case as 7. So we just have to work on different things.
Right now, in that case, as a form of, not recovery, but kind of like catch it before it gets bad, let's say, would you almost like coach them how to correctly move their feet, or do you give them like a form of, like a way to treat it, like a treatment plan, like, oh, if you foam roll this after, or if you like, I found it like I'll like roll my foot on a golf ball after like a 12-hour shift on my feet where I need to balance all day and stuff like that. Yeah,
so it's a combination of different things. So sometimes I'll go in there and manually treat it with my thumbs and my fingers and try to see if I can get things moving and what's not moving. And then after that it's care. So if I could educate the patient or the person enough that they can go home and self-treat themselves, like with the golf ball, and so finding out what they're doing, and then some stretching, the proper like foot mechanic kind of stuff, and there's actually some exercises to do, then they're usually a little bit better. They're usually a lot better. As much as I like to admit all the stuff that we do in clinic, really and truly, we're probably at best maybe like a 40 to 50% of the equation to helping people get better. When people step in and
40 to 50, wow.
Yeah, that's usually what I say. It's like, okay, this is we're a team now, so I can do my part, but they have to do their part. And then the people that do end up doing the people that are dedicated to their exercise, their rehab exercise, tend to get better faster, and that always hits the grand slam, and they're able to.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You must see a lot of like situations like that just make you go, yes, thank you. But I'm sure at the same time, right? There's those that make you go, like, God damn it, why don't you take care of yourself? You know?
Yeah, just different things like that. But you get to. Now I'm 9 years in, so you get to read people right off the pretty quickly. So, if it's also you get to know like the go-getters.
Yeah.
So they'll probably get like 3, 4, 5 exercises, and then sometimes it works. Sometimes it'll work against them. If they're like a weekend warrior, or they're like an athlete, and they're just go all the time.
Yeah.
Then I kind of slow play it a little bit. So instead of having 3, 4 exercises, they'll only get like 2, 3 exercises, just because they'll tend to overdo it, and overdoing it, it's finding that balance. Sometimes overdoing it can create more issues, and then if the person is slightly less motivated, then they might get 1 or 2 exercises. But those 1 or 2 exercises are crucial, and those are the keystone exercises that they get.
Right. Huh. Now, what are some misconceptions a lot of people have about chiropractors that you found lately that are just, well, that's kind of silly? If there are any that come to mind.
There's just... So the one thing that, as a chiropractor, that's great about us is that it allows us a license to put our hands on people and to treat people.
Right.
So certain chiropractors treat certain ways, and then other chiropractors treat different ways. So a lot of times, especially when people come see me, I treat very heavy on the soft tissue side of things, and not so much. I'm not very adjustment heavy compared to others, and some other chiropractors are very, very adjustment heavy, and they have shorter treatment times. I'm more on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'll have longer treatment times, so it's usually 15, 20 minutes. So there'll be a lot of soft tissue, some rehab, so like it flirts the line with physiotherapy-ish kind of stuff. So sometimes people will come in and they're like, well, I don't want my neck cracked, or I don't want this done, I don't want that, I don't want to be cracked. Then you're like, okay, I explain to them, it's like, that's fantastic. It's one tool in my toolbox. If that's not the equation, if that's not what you want to do, because it is, like I said, it is a 50-50 relationship, I think. So if they're not comfortable with me doing that, and if they don't buy into what I'm doing, but if they don't want that, then there's different other ways that we could go about it. So yeah,
interesting, because I found a lot of I think a big preconceived notion people have towards it is the snap necks, cash checks. If they don't hear a crack or feel something go pop, it's ineffective. It's a weird thing I've heard, and so hearing you say dude, I don't just go crack and that's it. See ya, here's $150. That's not the case, right?
No, it's definitely not. It's not the case all the time.
It's weird.
The whole idea with the adjustment is we just want to restore motion into the joint, and with the adjustment, it's a quicker way to do it.
Right. I see.
Yeah.
I see. That makes sense.
To get the joint moving better, there's 2 ways that we can go. There's 2 main ways that we can go about it. We can go with the adjustment and get the joint moving. You get that audible noise, and sometimes not even. Or if you look at the spine, it's almost like an antenna. If you strip everything away, it's like an antenna, and all the musculature around it is just the guide wires to keep the antenna straight. So all those little muscles around it are that's what's keeping it kind of like up. So if the joint's not moving well, there's one way that we can effectively go and just do the adjustment. So get it like a HVLA, so high velocity, low amplitude. So that's what the adjustment, the cracking noise is. Or we can go about it a little softer, more with like a myofascial release and some gentle mobilization. So where I'll come in and I'll find like a targeted joint that's not moving correctly, and then I'll add pressure to it for like 30 seconds, a minute to a minute and a half, and just as I'm doing it, for a neck instance, I'll try to flex so they'll tilt the nose up to the side and a little bit of rotation. So if any of those motions aren't moving very well, I'm going to do the exact same motions, but I'm just going to keep my contacts there and do like a soft tissue release, a myofascial release, and eventually it's almost like, the best way I've been able to describe it, it's like from what I feel, it's like if you had like butter that just came out of the fridge and it's hard, and somehow you're able to warm it up really quick and the butter just kind of goes right through. That's what it kind of feels like in my hand, just kind of that tissue just kind of all of a sudden just kind of release. Sometimes it takes 30 seconds, sometimes it takes a minute, sometimes it takes a little bit of patience. And then kind of come back and you find the next joint and then moving around. So it's you're gapping, moving the joint, stretching the tissue. Stretching the tissues, the ligaments, not stretching it, but gappy enough so you can get that extra motion through it, and getting things moving a little bit better. So it's the whole idea with treatment is just getting as many joints as we can moving as freely as possible, and then kind of coming around with the rehab exercises, and then creating control within that new range of motion that we had.
Whoa.
So yeah, and then a lot of time pain will come from restriction motion. So if your neck is always kind of stiff and that kind of stuff, so if it's not moving the best it can, and we can restore some of that motion, then people often get off the table and they kind of feel like a euphoric feeling, or they'll kind of feel dizzy just because the body hasn't experienced that much range of motion that quickly over time. So then the body just has to get reacquainted. It takes a little bit of time, and sometimes you'll feel like people feel discomfort and that kind of stuff. But then we just have to strengthen it.
Right.
What I mean strengthen is we just have to create more of an endurance in the musculature to withstand like the different the stress that we put on. Like even now as I'm sitting, I'm kind of crouching.
Yeah, as you say, people's necks they crunch. I'm like, that's what I'm doing.
So as we're moving, so it's just so we have the endurance of sitting upright a little bit more in a better posture. And poor postures aren't bad. It's just that we just can't hang out with them too much. If it's a poor posture here, then I shift over and move into a different posture, and it just to share the load of the tissue. If I'm always in the same posture, then those tissues are going to get overstretched and overstretched, and then the other ones will get shortened. So it just creates an imbalance, and that's where the problems come in. So it just the fact that we're moving more frequently is the better thing. We're designed to move, so we should move.
Right, and with that being said, and I know how important movement is, especially just as the more people I meet, the more people I talk to in the fitness industry and the health and recovery rehab industry. There's a lot of things that cross over and that people bring up that are the same, but I find movement, everything is just synonymous with moving well.
Yeah.
And I found after I graduated college, I did some work in an outdoor center, did some traveling, and then I worked in an office for a year. And my lower back and shoulders, every time I would go from the office, home, eat, go to jiu-jitsu, and go to like lift weights, go to the gym. My shoulders, I would have constant like rotator cuff, my shoulders would always be sore. I was like, why is my neck getting it's getting stiff really easy? Or my back, I'm like, why is my back always sore? My hips were they're pinching all the time. I'm like, I wonder why. And then looking back, and as I talk to more people in the industry, it's a lot of, I'm sitting like this for a good portion of the day, and it was weird because I think we can get into this in a second, but we kind of had like a minor solution of, I wouldn't say ergonomics, but I'm sure it's a light form of it, but like the stand-up desk, like that being a huge fad, but standing isn't moving. I think I almost felt it was the same thing except almost worse. Like, oh, my hips are opened up a bit better, but my feet are sore, my knees are sore.
And you're still kind of in that crouch posture because you gotta look at the monitor, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, the stand-up desk it's portrayed as like the end all and be all for. So the whole idea when it comes to ergonomics is, in the early 2000s, at least when I was going through school, we were always looking for like a perfect posture that we should sit in for 8 hours, and that's not the case. The whole idea with ergonomics is the fact that we were able to have variation throughout the day. So you could sit in one position for like 10 minutes, another position 5 minutes, and then that goes throughout the day. Yeah. Now the other thing too, that sucks too, is sometimes people they get in a zone and they're able to just crush work in a poor posture. So it's like maybe they just get in a zone, it's like 45 minutes or an hour, and they're just able to crush time, right? Yeah. So the way I look at ergonomics, you want as much movement as you can, and the other thing is, it's almost like a natural break will come in. So if you have the other analogy I'll use is like a wave. So if you're a wave in the ocean, you're just kind of going and you're just crushing work all the time. Yeah. That's fine until you create like a natural break, either like a coral reef or like some sort of break in the ocean floor, and then the wave will kind of break. So that's when you take your break, and that's when you move to your next posture, because you still at work you still have to be productive. Yeah. So if you're in that flow, don't break it just because you have to change posture. It's like do what you have to do, and then once you have a natural break, a natural disturbance in your flow, then change your posture, either standing or moving around. Go up to the washroom, to the second floor or the third floor, as far as you can, just to get that movement going.
Interesting. I think that's a really good idea, especially if you're working in the big, large commercial office spaces and stuff. But I found with a lot of people, I feel we're kind of towards the end of it. Towards the end of the working from home. I think everybody realize now with the way COVID's been, you're able to do your job from home. But I think a lot of people are excited to go back into that space, whether governments are going to be having their workers go back to their big office buildings, I'm not sure. But with that being said, what is kind of the best way people can go about doing their movements or rehabbing from home or at home? Like when they're in, say they have like a small 2-bedroom, or you saw my 1-bedroom apartment, imagine if I had worked from home. And I'm sitting in there, got the dog running around or whatever, and I get up, I walk to the kitchen and back, it's maybe 10 steps, not really, seems like enough.
That's when you got to get creative and use what you have. So, like for instance, then for you in the circumstance with like a smaller 1-bedroom apartment, once you get in that flow, then you just have to, then your break just has to be a little bit bigger. So whether stepping outside, walking outside, that kind of stuff would be beneficial. So like a 15-minute break outside, walking forwards, walking backwards, and then doing like a generic not gymnastics room, but like a track workout where you're doing like A, B's, and C's, where you're doing like kick up, just to get the blood flowing that way, or for like doing like a jiu-jitsu warm up if you're and you're like doing like some shrimps and that kind of stuff. Just different things like that, just to move a little bit differently. So it's
a good idea.
Yeah, you just have to be creative of what you're doing. And the one thing I really enjoy from like a martial art perspective is either like maybe not a martial arts, but like a Pilates or like a yoga, or like a Tai Chi. It's as we progress through the movie, it's not from one posture to the next posture and getting into that stretch. It's the journey from one posture to the next posture and being conscious of how the body's moving, where it's not moving, how it's moving, and do I really want do I want to open up my hip? Do I want to flex my foot more? Do I want to push my foot more on the floor? Do I want to rotate more my hand open, that kind of stuff, and just being conscious of what you're doing, almost like a body meditation of what you're doing. So just little things like that. If you can come up with like a small like yoga routine, or like a Tai Chi, like or a kata type of thing, that you have in a hallway, just different things like that, just to move a little bit different.
Unique type of movement, eh?
Yeah. I'm guilty of it too. Like I get my mode when I'm training and that kind of stuff, and I run to the front desk, do my thing, and then come back and do more.
Yeah, you get in your own way of.
Yeah. Right. So sometimes I get my own way, but it's just to get things moving a little bit different.
It happens. With that being said, what is kind of the best way? Because I find myself like guilty of this. I'm working all day with my pouch on my right side, right? I got a 22-ounce hammer, everything. I'm reaching always this way, I'm reaching that way. What's like the best way that I can kind of, or people in that scenario, like I have a lot of like carpenter friends or like contractor friends who, whether they have their pouch or they're just bending over weird and like lifting always from the same side. Like what's the best way they can kind of like not target, but any extra movement that can kind of counteract the strenuous movement that they're doing all day.
The long story short is you become ambidextrous, but nobody can. That doesn't happen, right?
No, it's not a thing. You're either born that way or.
Well, I don't know. Like not every. Well, like your previous guest, Zach, like he's just a different dude, so he was trying to do a few things like. Well, like I always put my wallet in my one pocket. So for 1 month, he would put his pocket like. His wallet in his right pocket, he put his wallet in his left pocket, just to throw the brain off different things.
I should have asked him about that. I'll ask him another day.
Yeah, another day.
That's good. Never thought of that.
But the other thing too, it comes back down to efficiency, right? When you're hired for a job, you have to do it as efficiently as you can, because if you're there, not that you waste an hour, but if it takes you an extra hour, it's an hour of productivity lost that you could have been somewhere else.
Right.
So, it's it comes down, so we just have to be conscious of like, well, if my hammer's always on my left side, and then I just pull everything on this side and I do everything with my right hand. That's how your body works, and that's how your brain works, and that's cool. It just when you're doing your jiu-jitsu is focusing your techniques on the opposite side. So if you're dominant on the one side, it's just to increase your jiu-jitsu game and maybe practice more on your non-dominant side. That kind of stuff too, just to make the brain work a little bit differently like that. Because when it comes to like what we do for a living, we have to be efficient at it, in my opinion. Because then you want to come home and that kind of stuff, and you want to have a life, you want to do your jiu-jitsu practice, you want to do that other stuff. So if productivity is lost working, then it just takes away from the stuff that we kind of enjoy, right?
Right.
But the other thing too is I was treating another carpenter, and he had a similar, because if you can, you want to load up from my understanding, you want to load up your tool belt as much as you can, so you don't have to come running back to the truck all the time.
Exactly. Like whatever batteries, impact, drills, hammers, everything.
Because we come down to efficiency, and you really
exactly right.
Yeah. Do you really want to be that geek guy that rolls on the construction side with like a suitcase full of stuff and just pull
Never.
And that's not that efficient either, because you gotta climb stairs, you gotta climb a ladder, you gotta climb that kind of stuff, right?
It's not safe. It's not rational.
Yeah. So, and I know that there's different things, different tool belts that you can get with like shoulder straps and that kind of stuff. And it's just to find one, and in your circumstances as a carpenter, is just to find a tool belt that's comfortable for you. Yeah. And then try to unload things. And same thing with police officers, they have a hard time with, because they can put some stuff on their vest, but they still have a massive amount of weight on their belt and on their vest, just because it's all the other stuff. So it's almost,
that's a good example.
Not that I want to say what it is, but it's almost like a hazard for the job type of thing. So that's the work that you do, and that's the consequences that comes with it. Would there be an ideal world that we could just put everything in like backpacks and then throw everything up? And
I'm sure.
But it wouldn't be, how efficient would it be to like throw your hammer in your backpack, and every time you need it, you kind of throw it around and pick it up? And
it'd be great. It'd be great if there's a way that you could do it effectively. Okay. Right. I think that's a really cool idea. Let's get that going. Because there's a bunch though, like people I know nowadays, like there's different pack out bags, there's different containers, there's like cards people pull at the job sites, and then we're always going back to the truck and whatever tools you can fit in your hand. I definitely don't think the belt I'm wearing is the best one for me. It's like very, very wide and just like sits heavy, and like it hangs weird. So yeah, I gotta figure that out. But that's a me issue. That's a future me problem. But it's still not.
But there's a lot of you think. Yeah, with all the technology and stuff that we have, I think that some belts. I'm sure there are some belts. I don't know if maybe like the only people that I really know that does that kind of stuff when it comes to marketing stuff is like maybe like Lee Valley, and like you have like the D-Walk in Milwaukee and your McKee kind of guys, right? But I'm almost wondering. Hopefully, maybe we won't give too many ideas, but almost like a built-in apron. Yeah. With a tool belt. Like I don't know if like the old school, like I don't know, maybe I just romanticize about movies and stuff like that, but like old school like blacksmiths, it felt like they had like this massive apron, and it cut down, maybe a wrap around their thighs and stuff. Yeah. If there's a way that we could have maybe like incorporate like a belt into that, and that would come into like over the shoulders, like almost like a backpack to spread the load around.
Interesting. I know there's that like there's the ones that go over and they clip in with the belt, and it's all kind of pieced together, and those are comfy. Take a couple seconds to take off and put on and throw over, but other than that, like they sit here so you have more on you, and it's almost like that, but it doesn't. I think there's more room, like I said, like with the apron, and finding a way to like tuck depending on what you're doing. I think what you're doing is huge, right? Because I have an assortment of things in my tool pouch, and there's not a lot that I carry around that I really don't use, but I know people who carry around a bunch of stuff that I'm like, you're framing houses all day. I'm doing like maintenance, so you're not gonna have a set of channel locks in your pouch, but you're gonna have 2 hammers or a bunch of screws or you're gonna have a big pass load nail gun next to you attached. That's like a good 2-3 pounds hanging from your right side all day, and a 26-ounce hammer on the other side. You're going all over the place lifting like 10-pound sheets of plywood over your head, and you're like, well, versus like going in and fix pipes or going in and remove and replace locks and stuff, which is more my speed. I'd rather do that. It's just lighter, it's cleaner, and I can work in doorways and not have to frame in the winter. I regret ever doing that for a bit. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And once again, a tool belt is what it is. It's tools that you need to do the job, right?
Exactly.
So, are you going to spend like 5-10 minutes every time before? It's like going through all your tool belts and do I need this? Do I need this? So.
Yeah, true.
It comes down to I feel like it's. I wish I had. To be honest, long story short is I wish I had a better answer for you. It's I think it's just to be conscious of what you're doing at work and find ways to counteract it at home and in your time, your downtime. Sometimes I know we're going back to it, but like a martial art, like a tai chi, that kind of stuff, and doing that kind of flow of motion.
Some form of like relaxed movement, or
some like intro gymnastics kind of stuff, like some intro level like planches, and then some that kind of stuff, just to get things moving a little bit different, because you have all that load all over you all day on the belt, so the core has to be rock solid, because if the belt's heavy, what's going to happen is going to tilt the pelvis forward. Yes. So it's going to put undue stress on the back, because the back muscles will have to contract a little bit more.
That's why my back sometimes, and a lot of us.
Yeah, so the abdominals are going to be stretched forward, so the abdominal wall won't be as strong or as useful, so it's trying to keep that pelvis level. So it's creating a stronger, I hate the word strong, it's almost a strength with endurance core to support your way of work, just so when you come home at night, you're not just completely wrecked. And then it's tough too after dropping in like 8, 10, 12 hours at work.
Oh yeah, at least 8 always. Yeah.
Doing some manual labors and coming home, sometimes you're just beat, especially if you're like a day like today with all the humidity and stuff.
It's brutal.
It's tough. It's tough to get in the mindset like, okay, maybe I should sit down and actually do some personal care. It's like, man, maybe I'll just check out Netflix.
I'm just gonna lie down and watch some flicks. Yeah. So switching gears a bit, you have not 3, you have 4 kids, correct?
Yeah, 4.
Okay. So they're all young and everything, and I'm wondering, how do you find a balance between, because not just, you're a cowboy, you're like, oh, here we go. So start the car, right? So how do you find a balance between the family time and all the kids, like, every kid gets to love everything, and making sure your practice is doing as well as it can? Where's that balance? And it's crazy because I value your time that much more that you're here. So I appreciate it.
I have a very understanding wife at home.
That helps, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure, yeah.
We have a little bit of support at home. Like my mother-in-law lives with us, and my mom and dad are 2 streets over.
Nice.
So we have a lot of support that way.
Oh, that's easy.
Better. I'm forever chasing that elusive work-life balance that everybody's talking about. I haven't found it yet, and I haven't found the magic formula. I actually had a conversation with 2 interesting conversations. One with a close friend, 2 of them with really close friends actually.
Nice.
And one of my buddies, Mario, he said is like, take care of the family, and then everything else takes. So if you have to work to take care of the family, that's where you just worry about your wife, worry about your kids, and then make sure that they're taken care of, and then hopefully everything kind of everything works out in the end. Type of thing. So it's like, well, if I have to come to work to take care, in this day and age, I have to come to work to take care of the family. So I'm doing the absolute best I can to take care of the family and the people around me. And then the other interesting conversation I had with my workout buddy this morning was I feel like vacation times are they're poorly loaded, because most of the people when they start in the workforce have young families. So maybe when when the person gets into instead of starting with like 2 weeks off with the vacation, maybe setting up like a contract, like 10-year, like a 15 contract with the company, and then all the vacation times front end loaded. So the younger, the more junior guys have like the 5, the 6, the 7, the 8 weeks vacation time, so they could spend more time with their kids, have like a better work-life balance. And then the guys that are coming into like when their kids are a little bit, the more seasoned, I say guys, I mean guys and girls, like the more seasoned workers, maybe have a little less time to allow the junior guys, the junior people on the staff to have that more work time balance, like that work balance, and and then the more seasoned people maybe work a little. I know it sounds kind of productive when we think like from like union stuff, like you go in, you gotta earn your vacation time and all that other stuff. But if you have a person that comes in and they get to spend some time with their kids at home, like I feel like from from a business perspective, you're creating that loyalty already, because they get to go home, they get to enjoy their family and that kind of stuff, and they get to spend more time and see their kids grow up. And then once then they appreciate the fact that they got to spend that time, and then they might put in the work on the back end of things. So that's what I meant by front end loading it.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Just a different I don't know, just not that it's going to go anywhere, but just one of those random squirrel thoughts I had this morning when I was talking.
Interesting. That's a cool way of looking at it, because I find now my partner says that he's got 2 twins, right? Or he has one set of twins. He has 2 boys. Yeah. Anyways, people are like, oh, you want to work late? And he's like, nope, not work past 5:30. I got kids, man. Him, and he points at me. He's like, he can work however late he wants. He doesn't have any responsibility. He's got no crazy things like that. I'm like, yeah, well, probably. But so I see it being, if you can find, that's a really cool way though of looking at it, where if you could find the way to take care of the family, and then everything else just takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Oh.
But it's true, because I remember before I had kids, like, well, I still do I still pull in some dumb hours. I remember walking in like 7 o'clock in the morning at my clinic, working with Eve, and then not leaving till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, just because, like, well, some person was coming in for like a workout at 8 o'clock, and then they finished. I was like, yeah, whatever, after your workout, I'll treat you and I'll go home.
Yeah, that's what it takes.
Yeah, because that's what it took at the time. So now I just have to, But I didn't have any kids to worry about, so I just had to worry about coming home, eating, and going to bed and waking up and doing it all the next day, right? So, and at the time, like, that gym had like my community, like I had a lot of friends in there. It was like a community, so it felt like that too.
Nice. And
kind of like the way the clinic kind of built, like, because the community's there now, with the staff that we have around us. They're friends, and then we're all practitioners, but they become like more like friends. So we work well together and that kind of stuff. So I have that community there, so it's quite nice to have that camaraderie at the clinic as well, and it's enjoyable.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So another kind of separation question between separating two and like compartmentalizing certain things in your life. How do you find? We kind of touched on this a little bit before we hit record today, but how do you find a way to separate? And this is something I've been talking with like a bunch of people in different industries. Like, how do you find a way to separate, like to go a middle ground where you're not ripping people off, but you're still making a healthy living and providing for your family and making that money and living the way you want to live, but at the same time providing that good service and building that trust with that client base? How do you manage to find that separation where like money's a priority, but also your clients are? How is that? How do you find that?
Well, like we talked about, it all depends on how much, where the value is set into money.
Right.
There was a time early in my practice where I looked at the dollar and was like, I want to earn this much money, and it took me forever to build my practice. And when I stopped caring about money and just started caring about people, I didn't have to worry about money.
Whoa.
So
interesting.
Yeah. Put in charge a fair price.
Yeah.
Like we
Absolutely.
talked about. Like,
absolutely.
I got commented earlier. Like, one of my patients asked me, "He's like, oh, how come you're $10 more than the other people?" I was like, I looked at him and was like, "What? I'm $10 more than other people?" I was like, I just didn't do. I guess I didn't do my research properly. But no, that's okay. It's you say so. Once you're in there, you set your what you feel that you're a fair dollar for your services, and every time that you go into, like for me, when I step into that treatment room, I wish I could say it always happens, but every time I step into that treatment room, my intent is that I'm going to give the best treatment that I can at this moment in time. We all have bad days, we all have good days. Some of my treatments, like I said, sometimes I'll walk in and it's like, oh, that was a really, really good treatment, and then sometimes you just have an off hour or an off day, like even like a professional athlete, sometimes you come into a slump, just things are going around in your life, that kind of stuff. But it doesn't matter. Every time I step into that treatment room, it's like, today, this is the best thing. I'm going to give the best treatment that I can give them today.
Mm-hmm.
And then once that ball keeps rolling and stuff like that, then the rest kind of, I don't want to say the rest kind of falls into it, but every decision that I made over money in the past, it never really worked out for me. So as I just said, my goals, which how I want the clinic and with things like that, and with the people that I want around me, so surround myself with good people like Dan, Pat, like Dr. Andrea, Crystal, Krista, and then Carla. Like they're just all good people around me. And unfortunately, we lost Zach, but I'm super stoked for that guy. So surround myself with really good people where we feed off each other, we provide a good service, and a lot of us are like-minded, and we just want to do the best we can for that patient or that client at that point in time, and then move on to the next one type of thing.
Nice. And to touch on what you said, kind of briefly mentioned something about it. You know, like the good days and bad days. Now, not to focus on a bad moment or a good moment or a specific like client or anything, obviously, but do you have a moment, let's call it a teachable moment, that you experienced yourself that you're like, ooh, like that, like because of that moment or that experience you went through, you like grew astronomically?
Yes.
Like Chiro specific.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you able to
let
us in on it? Yeah, and elaborate. Spare the details that you can't share, obviously. And yeah.
Early in my practice, yeah, the one went a little south. When we talk about stuff, and I'm pretty sure. So something one of the risks that comes with an adjustment is that you can break a rib. I'm not 100% sure that I did, but it sure felt like it. So as this everything, the treatment was going super smooth, and in my head I was like, man, this is going rock. So I was like, if I just do this one last thing, it's going to be astronomically better. Yeah, and unfortunately it didn't turn out that way for me on that time. So from that one, it's knowing how I learned from that one is how far to push the tissue. Yeah. And always that even when we were in high school stuff, like when I was doing football, I was like, that one last practice or that let's do one more round, one more whatever.
One more, yeah.
That's when we always get injured, right? So in my head I was like, I want to do, if I do this one last thing or this one more thing, it's going to be that much better. Every time I think of that one more thing, it's like, yeah, tissue tolerance is we max it, we're done. Let's let that cool.
Interesting.
So there's that, and then the other thing too is not. It is a relationship between the patient and that kind of stuff. But not let the patient dictate my treatment. When I was early in my career, though, I had a patient on my table when I was at Boreal. Great guy, well respected and that kind of stuff. And he's like, yeah, keep pushing it. And in my head, I'm just like, man, if we keep pushing this stretch, it's going to turn out bad. Yeah. I had a conversation with him like 2 days later. He's like, yeah, man, we overdid it. I was like, yeah. In my head, I was like, yeah, we definitely did overdid it. What are you doing? So once again, it's like, for me, dictating, I just dictate where the treatment goes type of thing. So just always a little shy. I rather put little building blocks and be a little more on the gentle side of things than go in and just completely wreck you, and then you're wrecked for like 2-3 days. You can't move. And in my opinion, if you can't move the following few days because of what I did, we're slowing down treatments. We're slowing down your progress anyways because you're not moving. You're not doing what you want to do. So yeah, it's you moving the next day or right after treatment that's just as important as the treatment. So if what I do in the treatment room hinders you from doing your job the next day or whatever, or doing it because you're so stiff and sore because of treatment, then it's kind of counterproductive, especially because you'll sit on the couch and that kind of stuff. Well, people tend to sit out to rest a little too much. Yeah, and then it just slows down their progress. Because they're not stressing the muscles, they're not moving the muscles, they're not getting the blood flow, they're not stressing the tissue the way they need to. Yeah. So that remodeling process is just slowed down. So
interesting.
I don't know if some of my Frenches are getting in the way as I'm explaining it there, but
no, okay, no, it's okay. I actually had an odd interaction today with a woman at Home Depot. So you go to the self checkout and you hit. I was like, I'll just have a bit of fun. So I hit en français because like. I can understand it, obviously, significantly better than I could speak it. Okay. Ask everybody I've ever spoken to in French, or had a conversation with in French, let's say. But so I think there's a stigma around people who speak the language to an extent. I'm not saying with everybody, but I think they have this very like way about them, right? And almost like a condescending way about themselves. And this is the experience I had. I go and I hit the en français, and it starts to check out, and it says the steps I need to do in French. And I'm like, please scan items, place in bags. But they're doing that in French. So the lady come by, and she's like, oh, you speak French? And I was like, oui, je parle français. And then I'm like laughing. I'm like, yeah, my buddy's learning French. You know, je parle français aussi. And she's like, oh, you're not French. And I'm like, I never said I was French. I said I speak it. I can understand it. And then she was like, wow, you shouldn't speak it if you aren't French. And I was like, hold on a second. And then we were just we were on our way out, so we were kind of like rushing. We were just getting, we were doing like a plumbing service call, and we had to go get parts and stuff. And so we grabbed parts, a couple tools, and we left. And so we were kind of in a bit of a rush, right? Like we're on the clock. And so for her to say that to me, I was like, you know, the majority of the people I hang out with speak French. And you're gonna say that to me? It hurt my feelings, Andre. I'll be honest. I was like, "Oh," she's like, "You shouldn't speak French if you aren't French." And I was like, "Are you okay? What's going on?" It was not my favorite Home Depot experience, let me tell you. So your French is it's all right.
It all comes down to practice, right? So like, so if you want to get better at speaking French, then you should practice being able to speak French. If you want to get better at jiu-jitsu, you should be able to practice at becoming better at jiu-jitsu. For me, like, I'm a chiropractor. I practice, like we call it practice, right? Because every day we step in the office, we try to be better than yesterday. We're learning from the day before.
Right.
So same idea with the maintenance stuff. The fact that you guys do different things or slightly different. Every house has their different approaches, right? Different nuances and that thing. So you're learning and you're just putting that into like the practice bank, into the knowledge bank type of thing.
Interesting. That's a cool way of approaching or thinking about just the steps you go through every day, right? Like, like removing or replacing a deadbolt on a door. It's all the same. The door's got a lock, key's got to turn in, lock the door, take the key out, door stays locked. There's so many ways of messing it up, but if you know how to do it right, then just the bolts change, or like there's different sizes, there's different ways, there's like keyless entry, and there's all that stuff that kind of is different, but at the end of the day, the door's got a lock.
Yeah. Right,
so I see it, that's a cool way of approaching the way you do everything every day, and I think that's I think that mindset allows you, and especially with your saying in your example of it's a practice, I want to practice, that it kind of allows you to be okay with like making mistakes, learning, getting better, and always improving, right? I think it allows that gateway.
It brings that like growth mindset into the practice a little bit more. Because if you're closed-minded, then at the end of the day, then the patient isn't getting the best care that they possibly can.
Right, which is not the case that you want.
Yeah. And same thing, if you have a certain bolt that you only put in, but you have to, I don't know, like, the only one I really know is like Schlag?
Schlag, let's go! Okay. Right on, you almost had it.
Okay. So is that, but if that's the only deadbolt that you know how to use, and you come up to like the competitor one, you're like, so it's, you know what I mean? So you have to be diversified and that kind of stuff, and be able to roll with the punches on that one. Sorry for the, but yeah, so once again, the practice and then learning how to overcome that obstacle from one company to the other, because I didn't realize that they have like different. My door broke, so I had to figure it out on my own.
Yeah. Oh, next time give me a shout, Chief, and I'll take care of you. Don't worry. That's interesting.
But yeah, so it's all different things, and challenging yourself and wanting to be better. And don't get me wrong, like for like sometimes in clinic, like we all have bad days sometimes, and sometimes. Yeah, so it's not always we try to do the best care, but sometimes it's just not in us to do the best. Like we have varying standards, right?
We're human.
Yeah, just like professional athletes. Like sometimes we hop on some professional athletes when there's slumps. Like, but dude, they're human. Yeah. Sidney Crosby can't be Sidney Crosby every single day, every single practice, every single game. He's gonna have ups, he's gonna have downs. He can't be an all-star every day.
Yeah.
So it's just like everybody else, right?
Mm-hmm. Andre, switching gears a bit. I think the date was let's see, June 11th, 2012.
Yeah.
Tell me about that day, because what I was told to ask you about this, okay, by a plethora of people.
June 12th. June 12th, 20. What is it? June 11th? No.
June 11th, 2012. It's weird. It's weird because 11th, 12th. Yeah. But excuse me. You did something like remarkable on that day, and you're laughing, but like I was flabbergasted when I heard what you did. So can you enlighten everybody on what we both know?
I'm just surprised that you got the date. So I keep messing up the date when I always got, because the 9th is when me and Brian started dating, so I always got I mix up those days. So June 9th, so June 12th.
There's a few significant days kind of really close together.
Back to back.
Oh yeah.
So
What happened?
So June 12th, 2012. I had the opportunity to give a part of my liver. So in 2011, my uncle was diagnosed with liver cancer.
Jeez.
So he was very fortunate the way it happened. He went for, I think it was like kidney stones. They were suspecting he had kidney stones. So the ultrasound technician was awesome. So as she was ultrasounding, as a technician was ultrasounding the kidneys, they noticed something in the liver, just because like you have the kidney right here in the back, and then the liver with the ultrasound was just a little bit above.
Right above.
So the tech expanded their field, and then they were able to see I forget, it was like 2, 3, or 4 nodes. So anyways, it was diagnosed. My uncle was diagnosed. Short story. He was diagnosed with liver cancer, and it was like specific to the liver because it didn't metastasize, so it didn't move anywhere. So it was specific to the liver. So he got the unfortunate news that he had the unfortunate the cancer, and then he underwent certain steps, and my aunt Linda, she found out about live liver donors. So it's at the time, to me it was new practice, but I think it started like in the 90s, where people would kind of go under surgery, and there was only a select few at the time that were done. So I was able to. She went through the testing, and unfortunately she wasn't a match for my uncle. And then I started going through the testing, and fortunately I was a match. So my blood type, my liver size, and all the other stuff, it was within their tolerance level.
Okay.
For me to become a match.
Yeah.
And so there's a few things that I had to do because of my diet at the time. I just crushed sugar all day and a lot of grains and stuff like that. So I had what they call now is a non-alcoholic fatty liver. So I had I had fat within my liver, so I had to lean that out. So I went on like an OptiFast diet. So I think I lost something like 40 pounds, and the only thing I was drinking is like these OptiFast shakes for like three months.
Sounds ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, it was brutal. Veronica and my mom and my dad probably just hated me. I was probably the biggest jerk to them for the longest time.
Always hungry.
Always hungry. Yeah.
Oh no.
Going from like 2,500 to like 3,000 calories down to like 900 calories. So I was probably
brutal.
Yeah. So so everything worked out, and I was cleaned out the liver, did all the stuff that I had to do, and I had the opportunity to give up part of my liver to give to my uncle. So they took out like the right lobe, and then so they cut me open, kind of went in there, took the section that they needed from me, gave it to him, and then my liver got to regrow.
Interesting that I can do that.
Yeah, it's just like skin, so it's
really
two organs
cool.
that can regrow as the liver and that one. So now I have a different version of a liver than most people, but it still works, and it's awesome. And so we're coming up on 10 years of him still being with us, and he's cancer free and all that other jazz.
Amazing. So next summer we have decade.
Yeah, next summer will be a decade.
Yeah, June 11th, 2022.
Yeah. So, but I'm just surprised on how the research has come along, because just about a year after me, Toronto General celebrated their 100th live liver donor. So 10 years ago, and then now, yeah.
Whoa.
So it was relatively new at the time for Toronto General.
Is that not scary? Like, were you not, like, what was that process like when like, you're like, oh yeah, like, did all you guys decide to go get tested to go see if you could all donate, or?
Just my aunt and just me, because it's a relatively expensive process, right? Because we have to go for like blood work, MRIs, CT scans.
So that's what the process is, eh? Like
yeah.
MRIs, yeah.
So just, and then I got stabbed twice for like a liver biopsy to make sure that my liver was up to snuff and it was healthy.
Stabbed.
Yeah.
I'm not in the medical field, so I'm a little unaware of what those terms are.
They took a biopsy, so they just had to take pieces of my liver. So like I'm just going to mirror just because where the camera is. So they just went between my ribs with like a needle about yay long.
What do you mean like yay long? That's going through one side out the other.
It looked about that long. So they went.
Probably felt that long.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So I'm not too sure if they did an incision. So they came in between my ribs and just kind of jabbed my liver, and they pulled tissue samples out just to see how the quality of my liver. Yeah, that happened twice. So yeah, there's just different things
that happened twice, by the way.
Yeah.
Ooh, no.
Because they had to see how, at the time, because I had the fatty liver, so they had to see the content of it. Because it's, if I remember correctly, if it's over 10% of fat in the liver, as soon as they take the liver out and they put it on ice, the fat will destroy the rest of the liver. So all the efforts that I did, it will be wasted, because as soon as they put it on ice, the liver's dead. Just because the way the fat will harden or whatever, and it just destroys the liver.
Fat just ruins the liver, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So yeah, so I had to get it under 10%. So I was able to clean that out. So that's the reason I got stabbed twice. Is so they found I had above 10%, and then they had to make sure that my liver was under 10%. So I got stabbed again, and yeah, it worked out quite well.
As well as it can when you're getting stabbed by an 18-inch needle.
Yeah. So, but yeah, yeah, it sounds kind of weird. When it came down to it, I feel like it was almost like people think it's like a selfless act, but to me it was more of a selfish act, because the way I thought about it is, if I had the opportunity to help save somebody's life and I kind of didn't for my own personal issues or whatever, how would I feel 5 years from now, 10 years from now? So the fact that I had this opportunity to save somebody's life, I took it, and then now I'm okay with I'm very okay with my decision. I'm healthy, and then he got 10 extra years.
Yeah,
and then counting, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's just like, it's like I had this opportunity to do this. Do I take the opportunity, or do I just like, no, I want to keep my own liver, I want to do my own thing with my stuff and just kind of not do it?
And who knows, that might have made you, like, do you find you take better care of yourself now, knowing, like, after the fact? Do you like take better care of like your liver? Like you said, you had like, it was like there was a lot of like beer, high sugar diet. Do you find like you're taking better care of yourself now?
I did for a certain time, and then I did the dad thing with kids. Of course, you always have to, like, there's leftovers, that kind of stuff. So then
you gotta put it back.
I put it back a little bit, and then I had a wake up call about like 2.5 years ago. And then I just, once again, just restarted everything.
Nice.
And go on.
That's good that you're able to make that, like, at least realization and flip it back. It's not like, oh, I'm back in the old habit. It's like, no, I'm doing it for my kids.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh, you guys don't eat the Big Macs? I'll eat the Big Macs. I'm sure they don't eat Big Mac, but you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
But it's all the dumb stuff. Like, like I'd have my portion, and then they'd have like leftovers, so I just like eat their leftovers as like my seconds instead.
Yeah, so you're just eating more.
Yeah, I just eat more than I needed to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's eating more of the same meal or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I find out when I was working in summer camps and I'd have young kids and they'd all be picky and fussy and stuff, and I was responsible for them. I would find myself, I would rarely fill my plate because I knew I'd have to eat every single one of their plates. So I got 9 of them. Like I have like anywhere from like 7 to like 15 campers, and between myself and my co-counselor, I'm like, hey man, like we're not gonna finish our meals today because that kid, and that kid. When you get a list, like right, we got a list at on like the Friday night for the following Monday's week kids.
Yeah.
Right, so it would be the name, how old they are, excuse me, and like anything the parents think we need to know. And there's always like fussy eater, and then there's like allergy to this, allergy to that, right? So I'm like, oh, okay. So there was one week where I think I ate the 60% of my meals were gluten free, because the kids would have gluten food and then be very picky with it and then not eat it, and it's like, well, it's expensive, and you know, it's a low funded camp, so we kind of can't waste much. So I would end up putting it down, and I think all the women at the end of summer would be like, man, I weighed 135 pounds when I started, I weigh 115 now after 2 months, and they're all like happy with their weights, they're feeling good, they have energy, and I'm like, came in here 155, I left 180. What's going on? I've never been that big. I'm looking, I'm like, abs are gone, I feel thick. I got like, there's a funny photo on my Instagram of me, my girlfriend calls it my travel body, because I'm standing in Pisa over a bridge, and all you see is like, I'm wearing this hat, fanned out, glasses, and you see just my belly go like this. It's awful, man. Like, it was all the French cars, all the Italian food, just everything just went straight to here.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I was like chubbing out, and I was like, yeah, this is crazy. So I understand when you say I have to put back my youngins' meals.
Yeah. So, but now I don't do it as much anymore. So, yeah, so it helps out. But now it's more like the intermittent fasting. It's more, for me, that's what it is. It's gonna be.
Yep.
I tend to do just one meal a day, and then it's good to go.
One meal as
Yeah.
like a fast? How does that? How does your fast work?
I just have a 24-hour fast, more or less. So, well, maybe 22-hour fast. So I'll have like a meal and then a quick little dessert or like a snack. But my snack at the end of the night is like 3-4 tablespoons of like peanut butter and like a tablespoon of jam.
Nice.
So just different things like that. The reason for like the fasting and that kind of stuff, it just simplifies my life.
Huh.
Because like I have my coffee in the morning, and I help the kids get together, I make their lunch and all that other stuff, so I don't sit down and not waste, but I just don't have like 20 minutes or that 30 minutes and sit down with
prep, make your meal, sit down, eat. You're like,
so I get to sleep the extra half hour.
Alright, which at the end of the day, sleep's key.
Yeah. So.
Now.
And then at work, I'm self-employed, so most of the time I'll blow through my lunch, just because people like coming in before work, at lunchtime, and then after work. If they could minimize their time away from work,
They'll do it.
best. Yeah.
That makes sense.
So then yeah, I just structure my day that way, and it just so happens that when I get home at whatever 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, I'll have my meal, get the kids washed, put to bed, and that kind of stuff, and I'll have a little snack, and then I'll kind of go to bed.
Nice.
Yep.
Now, as we kind of take towards the end of the show, how do you, if you have any what is any piece of, let's say, advice or wisdom for specifically, because I want a broader answer later, but specifically students, whether it be going into chiropractor school or just coming out of chiropractor school and wanting to do exactly what you're doing? Like, what kind of, I have a couple friends who aren't in the city wanting to do that when they graduate and kind of take similar routes and stuff. What advice or lesson did you learn kind of the hard way, let's say, that you would pass on, or even to yourself back then?
It all depends. When you're first starting, pick a practice that's busy.
Busy.
Yeah, because if you hop in, just don't jump at the first opportunity that comes around. Pick the spot, and then it doesn't always have to be busy, because sometimes the busy practices, you'll get the raw end of the deal. It'll be like a different split and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, find a practice that you're comfortable with, that your views kind of align with the chiro or the physio that owns the clinic at the time, and then just be honest with them and what you want. Like if eventually you want to own your own clinic, then yeah, put in your time and then go do that kind of stuff. Actually, I feel like I'm running around the question. Yeah, just.
That's a good answer, though.
Yeah, so
that's a really good answer.
Find a practice that you think that you could mesh well with,
mm-hmm.
and then that you can kind of, if you align with the clinic owners and the clinic, the view of the clinic, or find out if it's something that you want to do later on is own your own practice, and then you could just go in and just learn as much as you can from, like, maybe not the best practice that you want to be in. If it's just like people are just pumping through, like sometimes it'll be like more like an MBA style clinic or like a WSIB clinic, where you just see like it's almost based. It's like a just massive amount of people that come in. So and just see how they run, because the businesses run very well from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And then just take really good notes from that, and then when you open up your own clinic, then take some of those, the good things from there, and then just replace the bad things that you don't like from there.
Nice.
So, long story short, treat everything like practice. You're learning from everything at every point in time.
Nice.
Even the people that may not, you may not feel that they have something to offer you from like a wisdom perspective or a knowledge perspective. They might, you never know, they might have some keys in there, or they might show you things of what you seeing them practice the way you don't want to practice. Just might open your eyes more to the way you do not want to practice, and avoid that pitfall for you. So just kind of like an open mind, treating everything like a practice, and then kind of going from there. And I remember when I was in practice, there's a chance where I was like thinking about picking up a second job just to supplement my work, just because there's a certain ideal that I wanted to hit, and there's a certain way I wanted to practice, and I wasn't doing that. So there's other things I was looking at to do potentially. I didn't have to do it because I was fortunate enough that the practice eventually picked up enough.
Nice.
But there was a point in time where like I was contemplating in the summertime working like with the landscaper, doing lockstone, that kind of stuff, just to pay for like maybe 2 days a week, and being in practice 3 days a week, just to make ends meet, because bills gotta get paid, right? So
100%. Bills don't wait.
Yeah, they definitely don't wait.
Lame, but definitely.
And the other thing that I would recommend to any student, and especially if chiros, is as much as you want to learn on how to become the best chiro out there, so reading all like the chiropractic and rehab books and all that other stuff, dibble dabble into other random books like finances, like the not to name drop, but like the Wealthy Barber, the millionaire mindset, that kind of stuff, the growth mindset, just like that self growth kind of stuff helps you just as much as the chiropractic stuff does, because eventually we're still like a business, right? So meshing those two things together. And financial security is always important, that kind of stuff.
Huge.
And then just random books, like I like Malcolm Gladwell books, just because they're just random books about random thoughts. And then when patients, because I'm in the clinic, I'm in the treatment room for like 20 minutes, I can actually create a thought and put something together from different aspects of different things that I've heard or read or whatever, that kind of stuff. So having a vast knowledge about chiropractic is very important. But being able to have like a conversation piece too with your patient, if you choose to have like a 20-minute conversation, like a 20-minute treatment, so at least you're not always just staring at each other without talking.
Yeah.
So
I can imagine it makes the service better.
Yeah.
Too, from there and too.
So so just different things like that, just to be the best chiropractor you can be, and then read all the books that you need, and then we're also kind of venturing off into other books and other things, other knowledge to just fill up like the random knowledge kind of stuff too.
Right, and I think that's a really cool piece of advice, because I think there's a lot of things that I found when I was leaving school, and even in like second, third year and stuff, is and especially now, is the financial aspect and educating yourself with that, and just reading, like what's cool I found too with Malcolm Gladwell books is like the perspective he gets, and I have to listen to not listen, because I don't like the idea of listening to audiobooks. I'll listen to podcasts, I'll read a book, I feel I retain it better, that's just me. But talking to strangers is one that I don't know if you've read. I think it's his newest one, but I need to, that's one that I'm like
talking to that's when they're opening up with the cop scene, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a sick book. Yeah.
Because you read it, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Do you have a copy?
No, I'm the opposite. I do the audio thing. I have a copy of my audio,
fair.
but
right on. Okay.
Just because I have 4 kids, so I usually listen to it.
Your free time's your commute.
Yeah.
So, I get that. Makes sense. But man, because that's one that I've been recommended a few times that I haven't read yet.
Okay.
I'm like, ooh. That's a good one, because I think, and I was talking to a friend of mine recently too, I'm like, the reason I travel and why you do those things is it's all about perspective.
Yep.
Right? Like, everybody comes into your life and they either dose you with that bit of like they shift your mindset on something, or they add a piece of information to you, like to your thought process and the way you think about and approach problems. that kind of make your problems and your issues solvable, and that you're able to almost live better, right? It's a way of, oh, I have a problem right in front of me, and somebody who's done the problem and figured out a solution and has countless reps in working on what you're trying to figure out, and they show you how to do it. They just gave you perspective on how to do it correctly.
Yeah.
Now you have to implement what you know, which is they gave you that piece of information, then you take that to a productive form.
Yeah.
And then you make your money and make people happy with it. So.
Yeah. And in the chances are the people that wrote those books, they're relatively experts in that, so why not listen to experts at that point in time? So they did the research and stuff, and it's nice to hear different perspective. And yeah, I 100% agree with what you said. It's changing your perspective, or shifting perspectives, or opening your eyes to maybe somebody else's different perspective, and then it just makes the world a better place.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So with that being said, Andre, as we conclude, where can people get a hold of you, whether it be for your practice or on social media or what? I'm rolling the red carpet for you, brother. So where can people find you?
I wish I had a better social media presence, but I just Live Max Health Coop. We have a Facebook, Instagram, which me and Joe will often, well, not as often as we used to, but we'll post like different exercises and that kind of stuff too. Mm-hmm. And then we're trying to up the our YouTube channel, some stuff with Pat and different things there, to put some exercise and that kind of stuff too. So it's more exercise and rehab focused. And if you just want to chat, just give us a call at the clinic, and we'll definitely more than happy to help you out with anything that you guys need.
Right on, brother. Well, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your wisdom, and I'll let you get back to your kids, brother. Okay. So thank you.
Perfect.
Right on.
Thanks, man.